The Detroit Tigers take 3 of 4 from the Minnesota Twins this weekend. Well, I guess this weekend they take 2 of 3, but we already recapped game 1 in which we won. So on the series, Tigers take 3 of 4 from Minnesota, the division leaders. Let's talk about it all today on Locked On Tigers.
You are Locked On Tigers, your daily Detroit Tigers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of Locked On Tigers. I'm, of course, your host, Scott Bentley. Today is Monday, June 19th, 2023. Thank you so much for making Locked On Tigers your first listen every single day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts, including YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm recording this on Father's Day. Hope everyone had a great Father's Day weekend. Also, you're listening to this on June 19th, Juneteenth, as we acknowledge the end of slavery in this country. So, yeah, some holidays this weekend, and yeah, great weather, all around good vibes. And the Tigers took 3 of 4 from the Minnesota Twins. Can't get much better than all of that in one weekend. I am, of course, if you're watching on YouTube, you're like, wow, this is not usually what I see. Yeah, I'm down south visiting some family for the week, so you'll get me in a different studio, if you will. But the show don't stop, baby. We will be here every day still. Yeah, I mean, a really, really fun weekend of baseball. Saturday sucked. I almost don't even feel right clumping in what happened on Friday and Sunday with what happened on Saturday. Saturday was a joke. And like it's weird because like good vibes. This is going to be a good vibes show. We got a bunch of, we took 3 or 4 from the division leaders. We're crawling our way back up from, where we put ourselves at the end of the 9-game losing streak there. But since the 9-game losing streak, since they finally won a game, right, their record is like pretty solid. And that's not a huge sample size. You're talking what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You're talking 7 games there. But over 500 ball in those 7 games. And that was just my point. I think I said it either the episode when we hit our 9th straight loss, or it was the first win to break the streak. And I made a comment where I was like, look, I'm not asking for this team to be like great. I know that this team isn't great. But if you can just get back to even remotely close to the level, May, you were well over 500 in the month of May. Maybe that's too tall of an ask too. But just my point was, if you can prove that 9-game stretch is that's all it is, right? A bad 9-game stretch. And the rest of the season, you're playing pretty competitive ball. You go on some hot streaks. You're whatever. Like, you can go 500 the rest of the way, still finish whatever we are, 9-10 games under 500. And people will look at it and go, yeah, that probably exceeded expectations a little bit. And if it wasn't for a really bad week and a half stretch in the start of June, we could have been looking at even closer to 500. You know what I mean? So that's really what I'm asking for. Is I want proof, more so than wins loss, more so than a specific record or win percentage. I'm just looking for them to prove that 9-game skid was just an outlier. That was the outlier. And that what's been happening lately is not. Now, where does the truth lie? Our favorite saying here, probably somewhere in the middle, right? This offense has been on absolute fire, again, outside of Saturday. But ever since they broke the losing streak, that the offense has really, really been stepping up in a big way. The first game of the Twins series, they score 8. We already talked about that one on Friday's episode. On Friday, they score 7. Saturday, they get shut out. And then on Sunday, they put up 6 again. And even the 2 games they lost to Atlanta, right? They dropped 2 games in one day on Wednesday. Even in those games, they score 7 runs and 5 runs. Like the offense hasn't been the problem. It's been the lack of starting pitching depth that has really caught up to them. And then a couple of games, it's been the bullpen as well. But this weekend, the pitching, we'll get to it in a second. I guess that would be the more natural transition given what I'm talking about. But we're going to go in order of our itinerary here. The innings that they got from pretty much entirely the bullpen outside of Joey Wentz, it was beyond impressive. I thought they game planned really well. I think Feder and Nieves and Lund and Hinch deserve a ton of credit for the way that they were able to really keep the Twins off the board this entire series, but without having really a starting pitcher, again, outside of Joey Wentz on Saturday. So we'll get into all that. I do want to talk a little bit about just medical updates really quickly. The Tigers, ever since Scott Harris took over, have been really, really transparent with injury situations, and they sent out a medical update. Their PR team sends out a medical update once a week at least. So that's been a really nice change of pace. I'm also going to throw in there, I should have added this on the itinerary, but I'm going to add into medical updates. We're going to talk a little bit about some trades, quote unquote, for like we acquired a minor leaguer for cash type of trades, and then a waiver claim as well. But we'll start with Matt Vierling had back spasms. That was a part of why he found himself on the IL as is. He just came off the IL. He had 2 homers in one game over the weekend. He's been doing really, really well. Why anyone throws him breaking balls low and inside, really just non-fastballs in the strike zone low and inside, is beyond me. Like it feels like all of it, outside of the Astros one that he hit to dead center, the incredible game, like the second week of the season. Outside of that homer, because that was a low fastball, I think. I feel like almost all of his homers this year are on non-fastballs, either breaking or off speed, low and inside. And I don't know why people even remotely go to that area against him with those pitches. Fastballs, some people have some success, but he's been swinging a hot stick ever since coming back from the IL, and then he was scratched from the lineup on Sunday, so we'll have to keep an eye on that. He's not on the IL currently at the time of this recording on Sunday night. Trey Winginter, that's really the only other medical thing. His rehab assignment was advanced to AAA. So that means that Trey Winginter, who has not pitched in like 2 months, like quietly has been out a very long time, will be back, it seems like relatively soon, assuming that they have a spot for him in this bullpen these days. And then the other 2 roster moves that were made, the Tigers claim left-handed pitcher Anthony Misiewicz. That's what we're going to go with, Misiewicz. There's no way that's right, but that's what we're going to go with for now. Arizona had DFA'd him, and the Tigers claim him and then sent him to AAA. Seth Elledge was DFA'd to make room for him on the 40-man. And then the other one was Blair Calvo, was acquired via a trade with the Colorado Rockies. He's a right-handed pitcher, and that was just for cash considerations. He was also optioned to AAA Toledo, and to make room for him, the Tigers designated Braden Bristow for assignment. He was the 27th man coming out of the bullpen last week in the Braves series. So those are all your roster moves. Just want to get those. I don't have too much on Anthony. I can't even say his last name, so I definitely don't know what he features. Calvo has actually pretty good stuff and really good strikeout numbers in the minor leagues currently. His ERA is pretty high, but he has really good strikeout numbers. That seems to be kind of the Scott Harris when it comes to like those low, like buy low players that out of the bullpen, pitchers especially. He seems to not be afraid to go to them, and I think that's not only faith in just, if you have swing and miss stuff, you have swing and miss stuff, but I also think that's a lot of faith in the Tigers pitching coaching staff that we talk about and rave about all the time. So we'll see if either of those guys get to the majors at some point. Okay, let's get into the games that we'll kind of break down a little bit more. I know we talked about, taking 3 of 4 and everything and how awesome it was, but let's break down a little bit more. There was some offensive players we got to talk about, good side and bad side. Then there's pitching performances we got to go over, and then we're going to preview Kansas City. All right, but first I got to tell y'all about our friends over at eBay Motors. eBay Motors is the best in the business because for a championship team, it's all about making sure every player is a perfect fit. And it's the same when it comes to your vehicle. Every part needs to fit just right. So the next time you need parts and accessories, head to eBay Motors. With eBay Guaranteed Fit, you can be sure every part you need fits right the first time around. Just add your ride to the My Garage and look for the green check to know if a part will fit. or your money back. Because just like in sports, confidence is the name of the game when you shop at eBay Motors. And with over 122 million parts to choose from, you'll be back in the game in no time. After all, it's easy to bring home a win when the right parts are guaranteed. So get the right parts, the right fit, and the right prices on ebaymotors.com. Let's ride. eBay Guaranteed Fit is only available to U.S. customers. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. All right, everybody, welcome back here. Segment 2 of Locked On Tigers. Thank you for making us your first listen every single day. I appreciate y'all for tuning in, especially the everydayers that do tune in every day. We'll be back tomorrow recapping Game 1 against the Kansas City Royals. We don't use the W word here in terms of predicting series, but the Royals have been absolutely dreadful since the last time we played them and took 2 of 3 from them. So no excuse to not do at least the same. Let's talk a little bit about let's start with the offense, right? Let's start with the offense. And we already talked about it as a team. They've really shown out and been putting up a lot more. Again, Saturday just pisses me off because it barely makes sense. That was Minnesota's bullpen day. And the Tigers destroyed 2 of the best starting pitchers in the American League in the first 2 games of the series. And then Saturday happens. They get a bullpen day and they get shut out. Unbelievably frustrating. But took 3 of 4. You hit Joe Ryan. You had a great game plan against him. And then on Sunday, you put up 6 as well. I think I would just want to kind of go straight into individual performances here and talk about like who's been good and who has still been struggling here at this point. Just because I think everyone is like, we can talk about approach, I guess, if you want, like team approach and whatever, but it's pretty outside of the outlier currently. That is Saturday. They've been putting up a lot of runs lately, and that's a beautiful sign. One of the big reasons is their batting average with runners in scoring position lately has not been absolutely unbelievably vomit-inducing, and that's really, really a step in the right direction. It's still not fantastic, but I think they went 3 for 10 on Sunday. Obviously, they go 0 for on Saturday, but then they went 3 for 7, I want to say, on Friday. So you're talking about some pretty solid averages there all around, some clutch and timely hitting. But the biggest thing, and then we'll get into individual performances, the biggest thing and the biggest reason why this offense has been exceeding expectations lately is a power surge. They have been hitting home runs like crazy to a rate that we have not seen, not only this season, but even dating back to last season. We never saw it. And again, it's like a week. I'm not trying to say that this is like the new Tigers and this is going to last throughout the rest of the season or whatnot, but I couldn't even tell you the last time that the Tigers had a week stretch where they were hitting home runs as frequently as they seem to be right now. I mean, just over the weekend, we already talked about Matt Vierling hitting 2 home runs in a game. I mean, Javi Baez homers, Spencer Torkelson homers, Kerry Carpenter homers. I mean, just I think I'm forgetting someone else too. Just really all around, they have really been. And that's even again dating back to the Atlanta series in which they dropped 2 games in that doubleheader. Still, were hitting a lot of homers, still had a lot of pop. So that is great news, fantastic news. And there's a lot of players' season numbers that are slowly crawling up and slowly heading in the right direction there, which is obviously great to see. So when talking about some individuals, I think we kind of have to start with Spencer Torkelson, who, again, ever since the losing streak ended, has just been on an absolute tear. And his numbers in the month of June continue to get better and better and better. His numbers in the last week are unbelievable. He's got an OPS over 1,000, and his OPS on the season is now 710, everybody. 710 OPS for Spencer Torkelson. He finally has an OPS over 700. And now the next step, we're slowly creeping on a league average hitter here, folks. Slowly but surely. And I know I say that somewhat facetiously, but like genuinely, I mean, given how awful April was, like this is a dude whose OPS was under 600 at one point, like a few weeks into the season. And May was better, right? I think his May OPS was in the high 700s, maybe even around 800. It was better for sure. And then June, he got off to a dreadful start to June, just like everybody did on the offense. And then the last week happened, and he has been on absolute fire. He crushes a home run on Sunday, starts off him and Carpenter would go back to back. Just phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. And yeah, I mean, the biggest thing with Torque really this entire time, like the at bats aren't the worst thing you've ever seen, right? Like it's not like he's going out there and um, he's making a fool out of himself and swinging through a ton of pitches and swinging and missing a ton, and he's chasing out of the zone. He doesn't really chase too terribly often, and he draws his walks and whatnot. The biggest thing is just like, and even he's hitting the ball hard, and everybody's tired of that conversation for sure. But it's there's been no power. Like he's not lifting the hard hit balls. They're either like line drives that just like don't really have any life or lift to them, or they're ground balls, or even their pop outs. Like he's the king of like 98-mile-an-hour pop ups that are straight up. And so it's just about finding that sweet spot at launch angle, right? Finding that perfect bat path for him. And it really seems like whatever he's been doing lately has been working because he's been phenomenal. And that's really, really good to see. Kerry Carpenter continues to stay hot. He's got an OPS of 811. You want to talk about a perfect bat path? There might not be a more perfect bat path on really in the entire Detroit Tigers organization at the moment than Kerry Carpenter. Now, Riley Green has a great one too, but he's not currently playing. Kerry Carpenter's bat stays in the strike zone just so long. Like it's such a long swing, but he has such good bat speed that he can pull it off. The bat stays in the zone so much. He went opposite field. It's at like the perfect angle. Like his launch angle is pretty much copy and pasted just over and over with every swing, right? Just like the perfect kind of start low and come up. Like I'm not comparing him to this hitter, so everybody calm down. But just the bat path reminds me a lot of Juan Soto, and so yeah, good to see him stay hot ever since he came off the IL rather. He has been on fire. 279 average, 811 OPS on the season. Zach Short continues to stay hot as well. I mean, Javi Baez is on a little bit of a heater right now. His OPS is up to 620. Ladies and gents, 620. Now, the thing with Javi, we all know that the slider low and away is always going to be a problem. And we all know that the fastball up and in, like at his nose, basically, is always going to be a problem. Right. That's like it's not changing. So you might as well get used to it. But when he's hot, he can like be a good bad ball hitter, which is like kind of a backhanded compliment to start with. Like unless you're Vlad Guerrero, like senior, like that really is kind of a bad. That's like, why are you chasing at awful pitches? But like, I'll be darned, man. Like all weekend he was swinging at balls way out of the strike zone, but putting them in play and actually hitting them hard. And the biggest thing with Javi, we talked about this in spring training. We talked about this in April. We'll talk about it again now really quickly. The biggest thing with Javi is not that it's really not that he goes and chases a bunch. And it's not that he strikes out a million times. It's not that he looks like a fool. We all know that. We knew that when we signed him. The biggest difference is he has no power in a Tigers uniform all of a sudden. It just went away. He was the same hitter with the Cubs that he was with the Mets. He was still swinging at balls 3 feet out of the zone with those teams. But he had a slug, I mean, at one point in his career of like 500, so it was okay. He had a ton of homers and a ton of doubles and hit the ball really hard and made a lot of really, really solid contact when he wasn't swinging a boat paddle. With the Tigers and his Tigers tenure, he has just had zero power. The rest hasn't actually changed. That's not any worse or better than it was prior to being here. The slugging percentage being under 400, though, is, and it's really brutal, and it's killed all of his value. So that's what we need to see. We've seen a couple of homers over the last week. We saw a double on Sunday. We're seeing a lot more contact and stuff, and that's great. But the biggest thing that's just going to salvage all of it is if he gets any remote consistency with the power back. That's really what it comes down to. Okay, let's talk about some few more hitters, and then we'll get to the standout pitching from the weekend. We'll do that right after this. All right, everybody, welcome back. Here's third and final segment of Locked On Tigers. I appreciate you all for tuning in as always. So some more players from the weekend. Andy Ibanez has an OPS over 1,000 in June. This is just the Andy Ibanez experience. And I told y'all, I'm pretty sure I said something about that like in March when we signed him. He's just such a free swinging, but like bat to ball type of hitter that he's just going to consistently go through these. Like he's just going to have like 2 weeks where he has an 1,000 OPS and everybody loves him, and then he's going to have 2 weeks where he has a 300 OPS and nobody can stand him. And that's just going to be what Andy Ibanez is, truly, like forever. So we're going to ride the heater as long as we can. I want to keep playing him because of that reason. But you just got to be on your toes and be wary of when he does come back down to earth. Zach McKinstry still sliding. His OPS is now all the way down to 708, sliding in a really big way. We talk about the 3 holes that he has in his zone, in his swing right now all the time, so I won't go down that rabbit hole again. But it's gotten to the point now where he's no longer even drawing walks. That was like the one thing. He drew a boatload of walks, like a Juan Soto level of walks in the month of May, and he just hasn't been doing that in June. So it'd be one thing if like he was striking out a little bit more and he was struggling to get on base if he was still drawing the walks, but he's not doing that either. And that's the biggest thing for me. What else? I mean, Miggy still looks pretty solid. Okay, let's get to the people that are struggling now a little bit. Eric Haas and Nick Maton both continue to slide. I know Maton had a walk on Sunday. But I mean, these are 2 guys whose Eric Haas's batting average is 216. Nick Maton's is 156. And both of their OPSs are right around 575. Maton, I think you can send to Toledo. I mean, if you wanted to, you can send both of them to Toledo. But my point is, with Maton, if you send him to Toledo, I think that there are players you could be like, oh, maybe we're going to call him up and to replace Maton, right? Like everyone loves to point to Henry Malloy, obviously, but there's some options there. If you really want to get crazy with it, like Andre Lipsius could get called up. He plays pretty much the same positions Maton plays. Like you can, there's some options there. And Lipsius hasn't had a phenomenal season by any stretch or anything. So like, I'm not, pounding my fist on the table like that needs to happen. But you could do that. The thing with Eric Haas is that you don't really have any other options at catcher at the moment that are like major league caliber and or major league ready. So I think that what they should, for me, what I would do is just make Rogers like the 1A catcher. Like he's going to play whatever it is, 2 out of every 3 games or whatnot. And then if you do have a catcher in the minors that kind of, I don't know, snaps or anything, like Dingler's not ready before anybody asks. I don't know. You're kind of stuck there. You have catcher depth, but it's not exactly major league caliber catcher depth. Donnie Sands hasn't really done a whole lot. I guess Andrew Knapp, but like he's doing well in AAA, but like we've seen time and time again over the last few years that like he's not really a major league hitter. I think Haas is going to be here for a little bit longer. I wouldn't expect to move on in those regards anytime soon. But I mean, all in all, this is a very successful offensive weekend. Truly, this is the things that we needed to have happen when Riley Green went down to keep our heads above water did not happen at all the first 10 games after Riley Green got hurt. Now they're starting to kind of happen a little bit, and it's beautiful to see. Torkelson, obviously, we talked about that, taking a big step forward. Javi Baez has been swinging a hot stick over the last week. And Kerry Carpenter really is a huge one. Somebody left a comment, I believe it was on Friday's show, and this is a fantastic point. I don't have the name in front of me, so I apologize for not giving credit where credit is due. That's my fault. But it is worth noting that the offense has exploded since Kerry Carpenter returned to the lineup. And that's not to say that Kerry Carpenter has single-handedly gotten every RBI. And that's not to say that Kerry Carpenter is like batting 800 Like he's had an 0 game since coming back or whatnot, but um, I think that power presence and that power threat in the lineup in a team that desperately lacks power is absolutely huge. And the most impressive thing that I have seen from Kerry Carpenter since coming back from the IL is he's going the opposite way with ease. And if that's like not on accident and that's like actually an adjustment he made, then the entire American League should be terrified. And I genuinely mean that. This is a dude that has insane power to the pull side. And if you throw fastballs up and in, he can turn on it. And that's exactly what he did against Cleveland with the walk-off homer, right? It was a fastball up and in. He threw like 8 fastball up and in a row, and he just eventually turned on one. Like he has crazy, crazy power to the pull side. But he has been consistently hitting the ball hard to the opposite field since coming back from IL. And I mean, genuinely, we're talking about a dude who could be a really, really good hitter in this league for a long time. If that's like not on accident, it is an adjustment that he made and like is going to consistently do that now. Like I think a lot of people should be really, really scared if that happens. So awesome to see. Let's talk about the pitching really quickly before I send you on your way. Will Vest, I think, deserves a ton of credit. He started 2 games this weekend. He was an opener, right? It was 1 inning. Didn't even make it 1 inning on Sunday. But openers are important. And when you're trying to consistently give the lineup different looks and whatnot and keep all the hitters on their toes, that's what the opener is for. And Will Vest, I think, did a really good job. I know he got hit around a little bit on Sunday, but none of those runs ended up scoring. And Tyler Holton did a great job. Tyler Holton, I think, looked absolutely phenomenal on Sunday. And they put him in a position to succeed, getting the middle part of the lineup, which has several lefties in it for the Twins, and then the bottom part of the lineup. So really good there. Will Vest gets the top 3, the dangerous top 3 in that lineup. Then you go Chase and Shreve, Jose Cisnero on this is Sunday's game, inning and a third, and then we get to the back end. And so I'll repeat something I said last week and a half ago, maybe. This bullpen success is, dare I say, entirely contingent. Contingent? Is that the right word there? Yeah, we're going to pretend like it is. On those 2 gentlemen's success. This bullpen has some dudes that have had pretty solid seasons. Jose Cisnero, I thought, gave maybe his best outing of the year on Sunday. He's only got a 2.3 ERA now. We already talked about Tyler Holton. Chase and Shreve's ERA is almost under 4 now. There's like Will Vest's ERA is almost under 3 now. There's a lot of dudes who are having good seasons. But this bullpen lives and dies with Jason Foley and Alex Lang. And case in point to that was Sunday when Alex Lang, first off, I hope Michael A. Taylor is okay. I have not seen an update. That was a ball to the head that missed the helmet. That is terrifying. I really hope he's okay. He walked off the field under his own power, so that's a great sign. But I'd imagine he's going to get concussion tested and all that. I hope that he's okay. But Alex Lang could not find the strike zone if his job depended on it on Sunday. He was all, and like when you hit somebody in the head, that probably rattles you a little bit. I've never been on a major league mound and done that, so I would imagine that gets in your psyche a little bit. But even before that, I mean, he was all over the place. He could not throw a strike for anything. But Jason Foley comes in and gives 2 of the most dog innings of relief I have literally ever seen out of a Tigers reliever in my lifetime. And that's not an exaggeration. I promise you it's not. Like, that was unbelievable. And like, it's a game in June for a team that won't go 500. I understand that. But he inherited bases loaded, no outs, and got out of it. He gave up what? 1 run? Did he just give up the 1 run? Single up the middle? Then he leaves them loaded and gets 3 consecutive outs on 2 strikeouts for a guy who's not a strikeout swing and miss pitcher at all. Then They don't have anyone else in the pen because 2 of the last 3 days have been bullpen days, and they just used 7 pitchers on Sunday. So sorry, Jason, you got to go out there for 9, buddy. And he went out there and got 2 more strikeouts and left the game with a 2-inning save. Unbelievable performance. That sinker topped out at like 99 in that outing, and he didn't throw it very often. I think he only threw it 3 or 4 times. That is comfortably the best his slider has ever looked. I don't even care if you're going back and trying to look up tape of him in the minors or whatever. I don't care. I am confident that is the best his slider has ever looked on a mound. It was very, very well located. It was biting, but it doesn't even matter because, again, he only threw it a few times. That sinker is an unbelievable pitch. It's an incredible weapon. He's gotten it to the point now where he's actually getting whiffs on it. And it's because the velocity keeps going up while the whatever it is, 2 feet of run that the pitch has, he is so valuable. And I swear to you, I know he doesn't have good strikeout numbers and he doesn't get a ton of swings and misses historically. I promise you that the 29 other teams in this league would line up around the block and wait for days to get their hands on a dude with that arsenal that Jason Foley has. I will never be able to truly put into words how unbelievably valuable it is to have an automatic ground ball in your bullpen at any time. He is a dog, and that was an unbelievable performance on Sunday. But Joey Wentz, we should talk about the one non-bullpen day from the weekend. Joey Wentz was absolutely fantastic. Career-high 9 strikeouts on Saturday. Got 0 run support in classic Tigers fashion, but he has his first quality start of the season, goes 6 innings, 2 hits, 2 earned runs, 1 walk, and 9 Ks. His ERA is down to 6.82. He was phenomenal. And the interesting thing about that outing was he wasn't cutter heavy, but the cutters he did throw were just perfect. They were perfect. And that he got swings and misses on several. He got called strikes on several. He had one specific, I think it was the Gallo. It was either Gallo or Kirilloff. He had a cutter on 2 strikes that he threw belt high, but it was outside. It started as a strike outside and then moved to a ball outside. And it was a perfect swing and miss. 9 Ks. And again, the cutter, it was a revolutionary pitch for him development-wise, but he's had a hard time finding success with it this season. Great success last season, not so much this year. And he used it just a lot more selectively in this outing. It wasn't like his fastball wasn't his most used pitch, but he would use it in really, really good counts, really important counts, and pitch mix was fantastic with the fastball. The biggest thing for him always, I think, will be just setting everything up with good fastball command. I've said that since the beginning. But it was also nice to see on Saturday, he mixed the curveball in a lot. He traditionally doesn't throw that pitch very often. He threw it, I think he threw more curveballs than cutters on Saturday. And he got several called strikes on it, a couple of whiffs on it as well. All around, just fantastic. And the biggest thing, I think, was pitch mix. And I think that Jake Rogers deserves a boatload of credit for that. I thought he called a brilliant game. I thought he received a brilliant game. Jake Rogers, insurmountable value behind the plate. Very, very good at his job back there. So, yeah, Joey Wentz, ton of credit. And then Tyler Alexander, solid weekend as well. ERA under 5. If he can be that effective lefty innings eater out of the pen and keep that ERA plummeting, I'll be back on the Tyler Alexander train that a lot of people got off early in the season. But 2 innings of shutout ball after Joey Wentz. Very, very important and underrated part of the weekend, just given how taxed the bullpen was with a bullpen game on Sunday and on Friday. So, yeah, good job, everybody. Great work. 3 of 4 from the Minnesota Twins with 2 bullpen days. And Joey Wentz, who's just been a wild card so far this season. Beautiful. And now, just like that, you're 10 games under 500 and 5 games out of first place, baby. Love the AL Central, don't you? Now you have a 3-game set against the Kansas City Royals. And again, we're not going to say the W word here because we don't jinx anything. We're big on not jinxing things. But this is about as W word as a series can be, man. I mean, you're going up against the Royals, who have been absolutely awful. They are have the same amount of wins currently as the Oakland Athletics. Their best hitter is now out for the year. They have a dreadful offense, but the biggest thing, I shouldn't say a dreadful offense because that's doing a disservice to the Tigers' offense this year has been worse. Not in the last week, but over the whole season. The thing that has been dreadful about the Royals has been the pitching. They have an unbelievably horrible pitching situation going on. Bullpen outside of Aroldis Chapman, not great. Barlow's okay. But starting pitching is awful. We're going up against game one is against Jordan Lyles, who at one point pretty solid pitcher. This season, he is 0-11 with an ERA of dang near 7. Okay. Then game two, we're going up against Lynch, who's 0-3 with a 5.79 ERA. And then the game three, you're going up against Brady Singer, who is 4-6, but with a 6.3 ERA. The first two pitchers you face in this series, and I'm not saying that pitching wins is a good evaluator of like how good a pitcher is, but they've been so bad that the first two pitchers you're facing in this series literally have not recorded a win yet. Combined, they are 0-14. And their ERA combined is over 6. The three ERAs. Almost 7, almost 6, and 6.3. We're throwing out Reese Olson, Michael Lorenzen, and Matthew Boyd, so shouldn't be any bullpen games. Should just get 3 straight starters. All right? Cool. Thanks for making Locked On Tigers your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts, including YouTube. Check out Locked On MLB. Great show. Appreciate y'all. Appreciate the everydayers that do tune in every day. We'll be back tomorrow recapping game one. Sorry this ran a little long. I find it impossible to get all of my thoughts throughout it. Like Monday episodes always run long, don't they? I'm always pushing 40 on Monday shows. So I apologize for that. But just so much I want to recap throughout the weekend because I don't have time to do 30 minutes every day over the weekend. So yeah, we'll be back tomorrow. Let's go win some ball games, eh? Peace and love. Going to therapy's dope, and I'll catch you all then, baby. Go Tigers.